Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about INTJ and ENTJ relationships. More importantly, how these two types can actually complement each other. They do have the same cognitive functions, so they both have the extroverted thinking, the introverted intuition, the extroverted sensing, and the introverted feeling. So because of that, they are able to speak the same language. Although their process is different, they ultimately, I find, they complement each other, because what an ENTJ may lack in introverted intuition, a introverted intuitive dominant like the INTJ will specifically be able to identify that weakness or that lack and be able to fill it. So there's a great relationship between ENTJs and INTJs. The NTJ type is a rational type. In any kind of setting, what you're going to get is generally an INTJ is going to be the person who is more likely to sit back and let the ENTJ do his thing and kind of take charge as necessary. But the INTJ will be the first person to say, hey, you're an idiot, and this is why. And they rationalize why the ENTJ might be an idiot in that particular instance. So it's important that they do balance each other out. I like being called an idiot by INTJs quite frequently. It allows me to sometimes slow down and look at the introverted intuition aspect and being able to see bigger patterns. So ultimately, the ENTJ-INTJ relationship is a functional one in most cases. Now again, I've made this disclaimer before, is the INTJ, ENTJ, or any type of relationship dynamic is a multitude of variables which make that work or not work. It's not because, hey, just because you're an INTJ, we're going to be best of buddies, or you're an INTJ and we're going to be in a relationship. There are many variables to that. So it doesn't mean that all types are compatible or not compatible. Anybody can be compatible with any type as long as you're willing to work through those changes. So more so in the INTJ-ENTJ relationship, what I find fascinating is the ENTJ can kind of pull the INTJ out of their introverted state. The ENTJ works as the extroverted version of that relationship and kind of like, hey, let's go do this. Because the extroverted sensing, they're willing to face more challenges that the INTJ may have been reserved about. And the difference in that is quite phenomenal, because when I work with INTJs, they want to have this master plan, this ultimate plan. I've thought of every contingency possible. ENTJs, we don't really care that much. We just want to have a plan that's decent, and then we know we're going to change on the way, and we're ready to embrace that change, mainly due to the SE function that we have. It's a little more dominant than, say, the INTJ's very inferior SE function. So we're ready to face the environment a little more. Granted, we don't want to deal with it as much as like an ESTP would, who was dominant extrovert or sensor, but we are willing to go through those contingencies as they arise. Ultimately, the direction of our introverted intuition and the TE function is going to make us what drives us forward. So in relation with the INTJ, those two features, the SE kind of helps pull the INTJ out of a hole, per se. Maybe they're doing the same thing over and over again, working on mastering a plan, and don't care about anything else around them. ENTJs are like, hey, I want to build this plan, but I still want to be able to, we can change the plan as necessary. As long as we're moving forward, I don't really care. So that's the difference between the two. An INTJ may spend 30 years working on this super plan, and they hate unexpected challenges that may occur, unexpected obstacles, hate it, especially if the INTJ didn't think about it. That's what's very frustrating. On the other hand, an ENTJ goes, well, learning lesson, let's figure out a way solution. Let's solve this problem, who cares? And so they can kind of help each other in that aspect. In retrospect, or rather on the contrary, ENTJs, because of that, they don't always have the best plan. And that creates this other part of the dynamic that makes it interesting to work with an INTJ, because an INTJ will be like, have you thought about what contingency would arise if you did this? Or if you did that? See, you want to go, you crazy ENTJ want to go and do all this, but you don't understand that you're missing this fundamental principle, and if you do that, here's the consequence. Are you prepared to face that consequence? So an ENTJ will listen to an INTJ just like an INTJ will listen to an ENTJ, because they balance each other out. I think the combination of ENTJ and an INTJ in a business setting it's unbeatable, in my opinion. It's a powerful combination. It's a rational combination. And in business, rationality is very important. Now, I will say that business is mainly a logical thing, and both these types use their logic. Not that you have to be we are lower on the feeling side. That's okay, but you still have to be able to relate to your customers and obviously, take care of them and that kind of thing. But ultimately, when making big business decisions, is it logical? Have you thought about this? And both of that is where the INTJ and the ENTJ combination really mesh. Another thing about their relationship dynamic is they can be kind of dry, both sides. I think if you were kind of a vibrant person like an ESFP or ESTP or ENFP or anybody that starts with an E other than the ENTJ or ESTJ, you would look at the relationship like, wow, that's a really boring conversation. And I can see where you guys get that. I'm not going to argue with that. I can see where you get that. I don't think it's boring. We love what we do, but I can see where you get it based on you guys and your ability to go out and be wild and crazy and go enjoy the night and all kinds of stuff. Here we are sitting in our mastermind group trying to move forward with whatever we're doing. And not that ESTPs don't move forward. You guys just have a brilliant way of doing it. A way that we don't understand is, it seems like you play 100%, yet you still succeed in some other areas of your life. It's very fascinating. So, looking at that relationship, it can lack that kind of vitality that a lot of people would see in that dynamic. So, the disadvantage to the relationship was they both can get so focused on this, whatever end goal it may be, that they lose the substance between each other. I think that's a potential problem. I think another potential problem is the lack of exchange of feelings. Both have deep, deep, deep feelings, deep, passionate feelings. Not necessarily, it's just that introverted feeling. They're very deep. And at times those need to be addressed. And I think if those aren't brought to the forefront immediately, understanding on the same value principles as each other, it's going to create problems in the long run, especially when it comes to long-term vision with that relationship. Like example, ENTJ may want kids, INTJ may not want kids. Okay, so that can create a problem. Different value bases, that lack of understanding and communication of that FI function creates complications in the relationship. So those need to be brought to the forefront with this relationship. Yes, you're not going to spend a lot of time talking about these values and value-based judgments, but ultimately, I think it's important for this relationship, the ENTJ-INTJ relationship, for the sole fact that if you guys don't communicate your FIs and you guys find down 3 years down the road that your FIs are totally different and you guys have different value bases, that's going to create problems. In addition, the other problem that this relationship may create is if they have two separate goals. It's kind of like what we just talked about, but if they become so focused on the goals, it can drive a wedge really in between the relationship as well, because the NTJ types are so focused on their visions and their direction that they tend to forget all else to accomplish that. And we have a problem of sacrificing things that other people would seem as very important. So it's real important that those are communicated in that relationship. So other than that, I do think the relationship would be ultimately, it's very beneficial. I think it really helps. I have INTJs, I know, and all of them have profound insight on things that I kind of miss at times. So anyway, that's the ENTJ-INTJ relationship. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.